everyone, and welcome to another edition of Spiritual Talk. How are you, Paul?
I'm good, thank you, and hello everybody. And let
us know if you're on.
Yeah, because we've got no comments yet. So yeah, feel free to just comment in the box. Let us know you're here. Say hi, hello everybody. We are live, but I'm not sure. No comments yet, so I'm kind of worried that Facebook has kicked us out. Oh no, here we go.
This is because you were saying about blips, that's why.
Yeah, I talked it up, didn't I? Absolutely talked it up. Hi everybody. Hi Leeann. Hi.
I'm thinking my hair's normally down, isn't it?
Who's
lovely to see your hair down.
Yeah, it's good. Hi Sean. Hi Carol. It's good to see you guys coming on. We've got another great show and another great guest, which we're really looking forward to bringing on in a second. But please remember, we're doing the half-hour free reading giveaway
and healing
session. It's up to you. You can choose.
Yeah,
you can choose. So, and we've had some. Well, actually, the last week's guest, David, he had a healing session with you as well. So, I'm sure that David will highly recommend it. So, guys, please don't forget to share. So keep sharing away.
Share as many places as you can, please, so that we can keep spreading the love.
Getting the words out there, getting the ideas of what we bring through and the philosophy of, well, really, we're trying to educate, aren't we?
Yeah. There's those more hellos coming up. I can't see some of the names on here.
Okay, because we talked this up, didn't we? Things going wrong today.
Good evening, Ashley. Good evening, Carol. Hello, Caroline.
Hello, somebody from Hawaii. That could be really cool. Not sure who that is. I can't see you in the group at the moment, but hello. And thank you, Sean, for sharing. That's brilliant. Awesome. And some of you might be watching from YouTube. Some of you might be watching from Twitter. Obviously, I'm not sure if you can. I'm rubbish at Twitter, by the way. Do you use Twitter?
Yes, but not as much as Dylan. He's getting me used to it. So I am starting to do it. I do get a little bit confused.
Yeah, me too. You're not the only one. You're not the only one. So, guys, please feel free to share. We will ask our guest later on to pick a winner. So we'll keep reminding you to share. So
let us know where you're all from as well. I say Caroline's from Ireland. Good evening.
Yeah. So should we introduce the guest?
Yes.
So
we don't want to get too nervous sitting back there, do we?
No, absolutely. Let's get on and bring this lovely guest on. So tonight we've got the lovely Deborah Lockley. Now, Deborah is a healer, a medium, and she also does trance as well. Now, she not only does spiritual healing. I went completely blank then. I said I'll do this as well before the show. It's all going wrong tonight. Never mind. We'll keep going. She's also highly qualified in Reiki. Now, I don't know too much about Reiki, but Deborah does have a HSNU, a CSNU, and a DSNU for the National Spiritualist Union. She's highly credited, if that's the right word. Let's bring her in here. Hello, Deborah.
Hi. Good evening.
We're getting tongue-tied. We're all getting tongue-tied here. I thought it out before we went live.
The nerves, yeah.
So thank you for joining us. And one of the things that we like to know on Spiritual Talk is how people start on that road, whether it was healing or mediumship. What was the beginning of your journey?
Well, it's really weird. I mean, I wasn't a spooky child. I never had things happen to me as a child. It was actually when I was in my late 20s, 28, 29. And my grandmother had passed away about 4 or 5 years earlier. And I woke up in the middle of the night and she was stood next to me. And she came and sat on the bed and she was as real as real. You know, she was physical. She was there. We held hands and we spoke for what seemed like an age. And she said to me that I needed to go down to this particular place, a place called Park Gate. Never heard of it. And she told me the name of the road that I needed to go to and that there was a spiritualist church there. Well, I had no idea what a spiritualist church was. I didn't know anything about spiritualism. And she said, you need to speak to a chap called Alan Ridge. So anyway, and then at that time she said, I'm going to go now. The power's going. And she became really small. And just before she went, I said to her, you must see my mum. She really misses you. Go and see my mum. And then with that, she just disappeared. And I thought, what was that about? This is about 2 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock in the morning, my mum phoned me and she said, your grandma's just been to see me. And she told me that you asked her to come and see me. So I thought, okay, so there's something in this. So the next day, I thought I have to go and find out. So I had the day off work. I found Parkgate on the map because there was no sat-navs then. And I went down to Parkgate, found the road, and there on the road was a purpose-built spiritualist church. So I went and knocked on the door, and this chap came to the door and he said, hello, I'm Alan Ridge. How can I help you? And it was like, oh, my grandma sent me. And that was it. And that's how I started. And I absolutely loved it. That became my second home, and it got to the place, we even went down and decorated the church. And, about 18 months into my journey, Alan unfortunately passed away, had a massive heart attack. And that then took me on to the rest of the road. So I'd already started with clairvoyance. That came really quickly when I'd started going down to the church. And I'd also started on the healing journey as well. But then I ended up going down to Stansted and getting involved in courses down there. And really, that's basically how I started. So I started with courses with Glyn Edwards, who again has sadly passed away, and also Mark Webb. And that's where I started my trance journey. And it was about 16 years of heartache and pulling my hair out and sitting for trance and thinking, is this ever going to work? Then I got my the guide that uses me now, Dr. Benjamin, who came through and started working with me.
So you've just name dropped some pretty big mediums.
Mm-hmm.
Glyn Edwards, I should say. What was he like to be a student under?
Do you know what? He was very good, I have to say. Glyn was larger than life itself, and when he was on form, wow, he was on form, and I remember one particular time he'd been asked by the spirit world, actually through Mark Webb's trance guide, James, to sit everybody in the power. Now, nobody was doing sitting in the power then. And James was adamant that everybody needed to sit in the power. We needed to bring a spirituality. We needed to sit with God. We needed to sit in that universal energy.
Yeah.
And that's all we did all week. We would sit in the power, and if he thought we weren't doing it right, he would bring us back out, and then we'd go back in, and then he'd bring us back out. And it got to the middle of the week, and I was walking down the corridor at Stansted, and one of the other students was in tears. And I went over to her and I said, what on earth's the matter? And she said, I think he's trying to get us to know the difference between butter and margarine. And it was just like, that's exactly what he was trying to do. He was trying to get us to know the difference between our power, God's power, the Spirit's power, so that we, and it was just this really intense week. But he worked at it and got us through it. And I am a great advocate for sitting in the power before you do anything else. If you're interested in mediumship, you need to sit in the power. You need to know your own energy. You need to know that of the spirit world, and you need to know that universal energy as well. So I always start with students that I'm teaching with sitting in the power.
So I'm just taking notes because there's things I want to come back on those points, because we do have a lot of people that watch Spiritual Talk and do it on catch up as well. And if you're watching on catch up, we love it, guys, that you're tuning in and watching. The information that our lovely guests bring through is awesome, and it's all free. So make the most of it, please do. But I want to talk about sitting in the power. But for you, in essence, what does that mean? Because we had this conversation with Jason Goldsworthy when we interviewed Jason.
And we've got a lot of people that don't understand that or what it entails, because we've got a lot of people that are new to it.
Yeah. Well, if you imagine that universal power, that creative power, you could call it God if you like, that is the power. And that runs through every single one of us. We are all spirit here and now. The soul and the spirit are completely different. The soul is the personality. The spirit is the God light within all of us. And that is what connects us all. So if you're looking from a spiritualist point of view, you're looking at the first principle of the Spiritualist National Union is the fatherhood of God. and the brotherhood of man. It's all connected. So if you're looking at other religions as well, what we're looking at here is as a God or that power as being the focus, the Godhead, the top, the pinnacle. And that runs through every single one of us. We are all, in that sense, brothers and sisters, you know.
Yeah.
So if you look at it that way, that is what we're talking about with sitting in the power. We're sitting in that energy. There's a lot at the moment about manifesting, you know, manifest your life, you know, get manifesting, do this, that, and that. What we're talking about here is attuning to that power. There's so many different names that it comes under now. So God is sort of losing that name, I find. I think we're talking now more about that creator or that universal energy, that power. That is actually what we're talking about. And that's what we're talking about expanding. I like to use the analogy of when you get a mobile phone. So when you get a mobile phone, there's a little bit of charge on it. But what it tells you to do in the instructions is to charge the mobile phone. That's the power. Once the power is fully charged, then you can download your apps. So you can't use your apps until you're fully charged. So what I like to think of is the power is like using a, you know, analogy of a mobile phone. So you need to be fully charged before you can then download which form of mediumship you're going to be able to use. So if you're fully charged, there's no reason why you can't do clairvoyance, clairaudience, healing, psychic art. There are so many different things that you can do. You might not be an expert on all of them, but you can use that energy if you're fully charged. If you're not, you will soon run out of steam. So it won't last for very long. If that makes sense?
It does. But can I ask you, I mean, again, the word God has different connotations, or it's perceived in different ways by different people. So, I mean, I guess, I hate to use the word old-fashioned, or with the kind of new age spiritualist ideas with certain kind of areas. But what worries me is kind of where it's going and how people perceive it. For me, it is a power. But for you, you talked about people not understanding that, and I think that's really important. But do you see any? Well, I guess the future of mediumship affects it really, because people are not connecting to that. They think they can go off and do a tarot course, or they're not getting the right. No disrespect to people that teach tarot, but it's just, for me, it's something that's really, really important.
Do you know what? I don't think we are here just to become mediums.
Absolutely.
I think we have to have a spirituality. Now, a spirituality will grow. And even when we've passed over to the spirit world, we continue to learn, we continue to grow, and that spirituality will continue to grow until we reach a higher pinnacle, if you like. You talk to guides that from the spirit world who may have actually been passed over 200, 300, 400 years in our time. They've still not reached that pinnacle. They're still growing. So I don't think mediumship is the be all and end all. Mediumship is a tool. And I often think that sometimes you have to grow spiritually and the mediumship will grow as well. And to me, it's a little bit like a tree. And mediumship can be just one branch off that tree. And also, if you only go down that one branch, it's going to lead to the very tiny leaves at the end. But if you look at spirituality as growing and the whole picture, it creates where mediumship can be used on many different levels, not just life after death. You know, a lot of people actually believe in life after death, but don't need a message from somebody. But they might actually need help in a direction of their life that they're going in. So it's not so much that, tarot cards has got its place. It can be an opening. It can be a tool. It can be a stepping stone. If you have the link to become a medium, that is something different again. But again, surely everything has to be about helping your fellow man and also putting you on a pathway to a spirituality that is going to continue to help you grow. Whereas I think if you just concentrate on the mediumship, it won't grow. There'll come to a point where you will reach a level and then
go any further.
You're not going to go any further with it. There has to be that spiritual essence to it, and that is going to be what will make you grow. It's
like a little flicker, isn't it? There's always something that starts you off, and before you know where it is, like you were saying, the branch of a tree, you drift out into all different areas.
That's right.
And things excite you.
Yeah, it is.
So there is a case really that what comes first? Do you think someone should develop themselves or them? Because a lot of people go off, they sign up for a course, they've had a couple of experiences, they want to become a medium, or they want to explore that side of themselves. But I know we were talking before, but we were talking about understanding the power, understanding your own power, understanding that of spirit, the contact. I mean, is there a case or an argument here that there should be more emphasis on your own spirituality before you even go down that road?
You know, it's interesting because when I came into doing courses with Glyn, he used to have a Swami on the course, and Gordon Higginson actually brought her into Stansted to bring a spirituality to the Spiritualist National Union, because it needed something other than just mediumship. As a religion, it needed to offer something else, not just a message from the spirit world. And so he brought her into the movement. Now, after Gordon had passed, Glyn used to have Swami on his courses. And so she used to bring some of her students as well, who were actually having psychic experiences. So in her doctrine, where she studied the Hindu and the Buddhist philosophy, they go to the head, they go to God. They know that these other levels of the spirit world exist, but they bypass them. They're not interested in that. They just want to go to God. Whereas as mediums, and I think mediums are born, they're not made. So it's something that's within you. If you have a mediumistic ability, it's something that will come to the fore regardless, you know. So what we do is we stop off on these levels and we explore that. That's what we're doing. So what's happening with her students were that some of them were actually getting these psychic experiences but didn't know what to do with them. But they'd studied all their life on the power. That's what they'd looked at. They had much more of a grounding than what people who just started at mediumship were. You know, so that's why I like to, with students that come to me, is we like to sit in the power. It's not all about sitting in the power, but it has to be a part of it so that the spiritual side and the mediumistic side can grow together.
So in essence, is there other things that we can do rather than just being mindful of the power and sitting in the power? And I mean, it's very important. I agree with you. But is there anything, say I'm sitting at home here now. Yes, I've just done 15 minutes of sitting in the power, but is there anything else I can do to kind of help me understand that? Is there a way of life? You know, I know people talk about diet and food. Is there just different things that we could do as an individual?
Do you know, I think that evolves on its own. I remember when I started sitting in the power, I think I cried nonstop for about 7 years, you know, because everything that had gone wrong in my life and I'd kept down and I'd kept out of the way, started to come to the fore. It was almost like it was burning all the dross off. And it's a little bit like you had to become a clear vessel before you could be used. And I think all I used to do was cry. And people said, for God's sake, are you going to stop? And it's like, I can't help it, you know. And I think it was just a way of getting everything out. But then things start to change, you know, as you become more refined spiritually. You start to have sensitivities towards food. There are certain things that you go off, like alcohol, you know, and there are things that it happens naturally. And I think the thing is not to force it. I don't think that you can ever force your spirituality. It evolves and it unfolds as and when it should do. Is what I feel. And I think if you're sitting in that power and you're having a relationship with that power and you're charging yourself, these changes will start to come about ordinarily. Never sit in the power and do your mediumship on the same same day, really. Sit in the power, use that as your meditation, if you like, and then go out and do your work, go out and do your mediumship. I do remember that there was one chap who he was actually a foreign student that came along, and he didn't have a group, where a lot of people who were on this particular group had people to sit for them. And he said, you know, I have no one to sit with. And he was told, just sit in the power, go home, sit in the power. What was interesting is when we all met up again a year later, he was far ahead of anybody else, because everybody else had gone back. They were sitting in circle. They were concentrating on the mediumship again. He concentrated on his power. He built his power. He built that energy, and then the spirit world could come in and use that. I don't know if you've ever done a demonstration, and sometimes you get there and you think, gosh, I feel shattered, and there's nothing coming back from the congregation, you know, and you think, we need to get this going. If you sit in the power and you build your own power, it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. It doesn't matter if they haven't got the energy, because the spirit will really use that power that you build. And that's how I like to look at it. And that's why I come back to this mobile phone analogy, is that if you're fully charged, you can download all your apps and you can use them.
See, I kind of, for me, it's a bit like the only thing I struggle with sometimes, if I've been tired or been working, yes, I sit and I blend with spirit before I start working or demonstrating. Effie's just made a good point. It's like a muscle, absolutely right. But for me, it's once I start, I'm fine. Once I'm in the power with spirit, but it's just like that car battery, you know, starting your car in the morning. Yeah. Just once you get there, then you're there.
Yeah.
But it's just that initial surge. Obviously, I think it's really important to look after yourself. I mean, I know you ladies were talking before I came in tonight about the importance of food and diet, not just about connecting with spirit or working with the power, but just getting that balance right. And that's something, I mean, have you found that as well, your sensitivity changing, Deborah, and your mediumship?
Yeah, very much. Yeah, very much. I became extremely sensitive to certain foods, even certain makeups, you know, the skin. If you think about, the skin is the biggest organ in the body, and it's nearer to the aura than anything else. If you look at the aura on the outside of the body, so you start to have experiences where the skin starts to suffer, the hair, different things, you know, you become really sensitive to things. I am a believer that if you can look after yourself on the whole, where you're looking at, you know, you're looking at holistically, we're looking at if somebody's suffering with their body or suffering with certain ailments, food can be a great healer itself. You know, you only have to look at we were speaking about the different yogas that they're about, you know, Ayurvedic yoga, food is a medicine, and this sort of thing. So there are many of these ancient things that have been passed down through hundreds of thousands of years that now are just starting to get looked at again, or becoming more popular, you know, where in the Western world, we're actually looking at these things and thinking there's actually something to this. So I do think there is, but I do also agree that if you'd have said to me 20 years ago, you need to stop drinking, or not that I was an alcoholic, don't get me wrong, you know, but you need to cut back on your alcohol, or you need to stop eating pizza, I wouldn't have done it. I think it evolves as it goes along. And then you become so aware of your body that you think, oh, I know when I feel well. I know when I'm well. I know I can't eat that because it's going to upset me. And you get to a point where it doesn't bother you anymore that you're not eating or drinking these things that you once enjoyed. I don't know if you found that, Leeann, as well.
Yeah, it's strange what you're saying about alcohol. I haven't drunk for a long, long time.
Me too,
and even at Christmas, when somebody says take a sip, and I do make everyone laugh, but I'll take one sip, and I'm fully aware of that tracking around my body and what it's doing to it. And I'm like, no, it's not for me.
It's not worth it.
And foods and stuff like that. It was strange, but when I've always had trouble with meats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's been 7-8 years now I've been vegan, and my energy through healing I can't even describe it. It was almost like all of a sudden my body was this beacon of light, because I was no longer taking on the energy of the animal.
That's
what
right.
I was feeling all the time.
That's right. Yeah.
People don't realize, but I think definitely when you start doing things like that, you're just more aware. And like even now, like I was saying to my other half, I've got to completely cut out bread because I'm totally aware it's poison to my body.
Yeah.
But it's in everything.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. But yeah, you're very right. And you can, as I say, you become that aware of the body, not in a way that you're conscious of it, but you all automatically then become aware that, yeah, this isn't suiting me, this isn't right. And I think that evolves naturally, you know.
Yeah,
there are things you can do. I think, you know, being a trance medium, like you've said, eating meat is a definite no before you go into that altered state. And I know the spirit world have been back and said that they actually pick up on that vibration as well. That when they're entering, you know, when they're in your aura, when they're entering into that state with you, that they also pick up on what you've eaten. Peanuts is another one as well. They don't like you to eat before
I've got a nut allergy.
Oh, there you go.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome. We haven't talked about your trance work, Deborah.
Yes.
So how did that happen? How did you go into trance? What was the moment, so to speak? What happened?
Well, it was Glyn Edwards actually that I'd gone down on a course, just unsaid, and to work on my clairvoyance. And he, as he was putting everybody into groups, and he said, right, and you're in this trance group. And I said, but I don't want to do trance. And he said, that's what the spirit world is saying you're doing. And I really, you know, put my heels down. I don't want to do trance. And he said, you will do trance. That is what they want you to do. And sort of, I marched into this trance group and I didn't want to do it. And I absolutely loved it. But as I say, the journey into the trance, I found so difficult because I was very much a control freak. Very much. Every area of my life was, I have to be in control of this. And trance is about letting go and letting the spirit world, their thoughts, you know, take over so that you are then moving as they would want you to, you know, as they would want to move through you. And it took forever. I just couldn't relax. It was so frustrating. But what happened was I was actually sitting for direct voice. That's what we were sitting for. And it was going very well, where we were starting to get the voice box separating and, sounds that were coming through from the spirit world. And then I had a stroke just out of the blue. And I lost all links with the spirit world for 2 years. And it just felt like I'd had my arms cut off, you know. It was like, I was so depressed, you know. But what was interesting was that Swami, who Gordon had brought into the movement and that Glyn had used, phoned me and said, I hear you've had a stroke. And I said, yeah. And she said when she came back from India, that she had been sent into hospitals to work with the breath. Because obviously she's a yogi. And so she worked with the breath. And so we did a lot of breath work, breathing into the areas that I couldn't move and this sort of thing. And the breath really worked. And I found that anxiety that was caused through having the stroke disappeared. And it really put me back on a level. And after the 2 years, Mark Webb actually said to me, why don't you come to a group? I'm doing a trance group in Scotland. And I said, oh, I don't see the point. You know, I've no link anymore. And he said, just come along, sit, and we'll see what happens. And we'd sat in the group, and all of a sudden I became aware. I was watching other people in the trance group. I wasn't actually in a trance, but I was aware at the other side of the room was a spirit in a white doctor's uniform, you know, white doctor's coat. And he walked across and he stood next to me. Obviously, I was seeing him clairvoyantly, and he stood next to me. And he said, my name is Dr. Benjamin. And he is he's Swiss. He's got a Swiss-German accent. So he came across with this Swiss-German accent. And I sort of like said, oh, hello, sort of thing. And Mark said, you've got somebody with you. I said, yeah, no, I don't think he's with me. He said, he's with you. Anyway, he brought the whole group back, and we got a treatment bed. And we put somebody on the treatment bed that I had no idea what was wrong. And I sat at the head and went into, to go into the altered state. And he came in and he just took over straight away. And he spoke about his life, how he was born in Switzerland, but was moved to Germany before the war. He spoke about his family. He spoke about how he became a doctor. And then he got up and started to speak about the patient and what was wrong with the patient, which was absolutely phenomenal. And then started to do the healing. And it just progressed from there. And we've been all over. I got asked to go and work in Switzerland, which was really good. I had two ladies who separately came to see me. They didn't know each other, both of them Swiss. One of them was her brother went to university with the Dr. Benbin. And the other lady, her mum worked at the hospital with him. So these are two separate, occasions that they knew of him. So it was really nice to, and plus apparently his father was a doctor of philosophy, and there's a statue of him in Switzerland. So that was quite nice to know these things about him, and that it's like he was a living man, and he wanted to finish his vocation, and he said that he had to learn so much more than just the physical body, about how the energy works, about how emotion works, about how the mind works with the body.
Yeah.
He's a very interesting man and very amusing. Apparently, when I'm in the altered state and he comes through, which I don't, I'm not a funny person at all, but, he does make people laugh. He puts people at ease. And I get quite a few children coming for healing, and they love him. They absolutely love him, and they want, can he come and massage my leg again? Or can he come and do this? And can he come and do that? His bedside manner is far greater than what mine would be, But I'm very
that you can actually talk to people that have known him as well. Because so many times you channel and they're like from years and years
ago. Yeah. Well, he died in a car accident, actually.
Wow.
So to think that he's been able to come back. He said it was so important that he finished his vocation. He didn't get to do what he wanted. And he's also said as well, which did make me giggle, that he used to smoke. And I know he did say to one patient, he said, I used to smoke. He said, but it's a car accident that killed me. But if you don't stop, you can end up having problems, So it's quite amusing. And he's quite frank. He will say to people, you need to stop doing X, Y, and Z, because if you don't, this is not, it's not going to help you in the long run. Whereas I would be pussyfooting around, I'd think, oh no, you can't say that to somebody. Yeah. But yeah, I'm very privileged to have him work with me. But he's not the only person. There are 2 or 3 other doctors that work with him, and people can feel the different amount of hands on the body. But he's the spokesperson. He's the one who speaks through me in trance. But the others are there within that energy, where patients can feel that. So yeah, it's really interesting.
So how long have you done trance with him?
Be about 8 years now. Wow. So yeah, so I sat for 16 to get to in the trance state, and then it's been about 8 years that I've been working with him. Yeah. But I often, I really would like something, if it's meant, something like, I don't know if you've heard of the medium Isa Northage. There was one medium called Ivy Northage who was.
So I've heard of Ivy, yeah, not Isa.
This lady was called Isa Northage. If you ever get a chance to read the book, it's very interesting. But her guides used to materialize. She would go into the trance state, and her guides would actually, there was 2 of them, would come through and would materialize, and the patients could actually see them.
Wow.
Doing the healing. And I remember there was one particular girl who, it tells you about it in the book. She had a brain tumor. She was 18, and her parents had gone all over and they'd said there was no hope. And so she'd taken her to see Isa Northage, and the 2 guides came through. Not only did they manage to remove the brain tumor, but then they said they had a surprise for her, and they materialized a man and a woman, and they were this girl's parents, which didn't make sense because this girl had gone with her parents. But it turns out that her parents had died in a car accident, and that she was a baby at the time, and that the parents were her adoptive parents. And so what actually came through was her real birth parents during this thing. I mean, how amazing is that, to think that the guides came through, but also then she could materialize, you know, the parents of this girl who didn't even know that, you know, her real parents had actually died in a car accident.
Wow.
But she went on and lived a full and active life without the brain tumors, completely removed. Yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but I love reading these old books on things. You know, you find out an awful lot about how mediumship has changed now. I don't think people give it the time that it was taken then. You know, for materializations. Yes, sometimes it could happen pretty quickly, but the majority of the time, people sat for years and years before they started to experience that, you know.
I think the energies have changed so much that people are getting it quicker now. I know people that studied for years, and then you've got now people, it's almost like they click their fingers, go to bed one night, next day wake up and something's ignited in them.
Yeah.
And they're off. It's really lovely to see.
Yeah, but I think the whole world has speed, you know. I read something the other day that said since 2000, there's been more technology than what there had been in these last 22 years than what there has been between 1900 and 2000, you know. Wow. So I think the whole world in general is just, you know, it's speed, you know, everything's speeded up so quickly. Yeah.
We've got a great question from Carol.
I highlighted it.
When you started to feel trance did you feel any facial twitching or involuntary eye or face movements? And if so, how long was it before you fully blended?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you and your face can get contorted into all different sorts of ways. Even the hands can, you know, the hands might change, become. And I think sometimes what's happening there is that you're not letting go, and your natural reaction is to hold on to everything you can, and it comes out in these spasms, if you like, because once the trance state fully blends, you will lose the facial twitching. There's no reason for it to be there, but that is part of it. But yeah, as I say, my journey was a long one. It took me 16 years before I fully blended, because I couldn't let go.
Trust.
And it is trust. It is. And also that thing of feeling silly, you know, because if you're aware that somebody wants to speak to you, and it may be a Chinese person, a Native American, Dr. Benjamin, you know, being Swiss German, and you're thinking, I can feel that coming on, but I can't say it. You know, you're holding yourself back all that time. As soon as you can let that out, it's amazing. And I'll tell you something that's a bit similar to that, is that I watched the Beatles Get Back, this documentary that's been on Disney Plus. And all four of the Beatles were in this room. They were doing a documentary on their last album. And they started playing the guitars, and they would start coming out with all sorts of stupid words. Some of them would be swearing. Some of them would be rude rhymes that would come out. And then all of a sudden, there was a change. And the words of Get Back, written down straight away. And I just feel it's almost like that. It's like that. If you can let everything out that comes out, and then all of a sudden the spirit world are there, you know, they can pick up on that. And it's like those very first few words as well. If you keep getting hello, 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 and you don't say it, nothing else is ever going to come.
Yeah.
You can look at that as me and you. If you said to me, hello, Deborah, and I said, well, hello, Paul, hello, Leeann. And you said, hello, Deborah. And I said, hello, Paul, hello, Leeann. It's never going to get any further. You have to get those words out before the next word will come along. And it might only be one word. So it might be, hello, how, or how are you? That might only be what you get. But until you get that out, the spirit world can't then move on to the next sentence and the next sentence. So it is that letting go. And the more that you let go, the more the blending will come and the faster it will come. So that's all I can say is, yes, you will get these facial twitches. You will get these spasms. If you can, try to ignore them. Because the more that you're concentrating on, oh, I've got a facial spasm, or my eyes twitching, or you're out of the trance state. You're becoming aware of what's happening with the physical body. So if you're aware, oh yeah, that's going on, okay, I'll just ignore it, or yeah, I'll be passive and just let it go, then the next phase can come. So it is about really letting go and then allowing the spirit world to come.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Surrender.
It
Can
took
I
me
ask?
time. Yeah.
Sorry, Deborah. Can I ask also, is there an element of fear?
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah. Because you are giving yourself over to the spirit world. It's one of the closest links I think you're ever going to get with anybody, between you and your guide. And it's like the cogs of a wheel. I know some people say they have famous guides that have been used with other mediums. I find that difficult to believe. I'm not saying that they can't help you along the way, but I think you are meant to have people that fit with you so tight that they could never fit with anybody else, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if they're fitting with you that tight, that you're like cogs of a wheel, you know, they know you, they know you totally, and you are giving yourself over to them. And it's a little bit like if you started a new job and somebody said to you, right, turn around and fall backwards into my arms. Do you trust that person to catch you? You don't know them from Adam, you know, and you've got to build this trust up, you know, and so yeah, there's definitely a fear element involved, definitely.
But does that trust come with, again, coming back full circle to sitting in the power and getting to understand your guides? Because that's one of the first things that I wanted to establish when I started working was, you know, and there is this, I guess, ego self that wants to know, well, who have I got working with me?
Yeah.
You know, there is this. And how many times do you hear people, oh, yeah, I've got such and such. But does it really matter?
It doesn't, actually. And I tell you why. I was exactly the same. Ego plays a huge part. And I think when you're in groups as well and you're learning and you want to make sure that I'm doing this right, this has got to be right, and I need to have somebody who's good and da-da-da-da-da. When you're actually in the trance state, what would happen is if you're doing trance clairvoyance, your guide is there, but the guide is opening you up where actually the loved one of a person that you has come to see you can come through and speak through you. So it's not going to be a guide. You know, it's not going to be a guide. It's just going to be ordinary Joe Smith, Fred Blogs, whatever you want to say. It's just going to be somebody ordinary coming through. What does it matter? So what you have to do is, especially with trance clairvoyance, which is a fantastic gift, to be able to think that the loved ones of somebody coming to see you will be able to come through and speak directly in their tone of voice, you know, in their accent, to be able to come through and speak and share words with their loved ones that they've left behind. It doesn't matter who it is, you know. Plus, you're never going to know them. You know, you are just that vessel for that person to come through. So, you know, I agree that I think you do need to know a certain amount to what what you're doing with your guide. I know I've got Dr. Benjamin, but I also know there are other doctors who specialize in certain areas that he wouldn't specialize in, that come through. If I wanted to know every single person that came through, we would never get anywhere. You know, you'd be forever just wanting to know who this guide is, who that is, what was their life like, what did happen here, what happened there. And I think the thing is, you need to just allow yourself to go, allow the spirit world to come in, and just be open that you think, I'm here to serve. Let whoever's going to come through, you know. So I'm a great believer in that.
It's fascinating, actually, because both of you, like for me, I've not had training. So I didn't know what the power was. I've just always sat with my hand on my heart and done it in unconditional love.
Yeah.
So I've never sat to do trance work. I was very lucky that I allowed my heart to lead.
Yeah.
And it came like naturally.
I think
it's very interesting to listen to it from, and I've never known. I'm always saying to Paul, I don't know who I work with. I just unconditional love, and for who, and I always just open myself up that the person that I'm working on will get what they need for them for this moment. So it's very interesting to hear your two.
Yeah, I think sometimes, education is a downfall in this instance, because we become so educated that we're looking for these things all the time. Now, if you look back to the pioneers, they sat in a dark room, or they sat with a table. They didn't know what was going to happen. Yeah. They just sat with the same thing as what you did. And I think what happened is, through different boards, whether that be the SNU or whether it be the Corinthians or whatever it is, these we had rules that were then set out, and that you need to know about X, Y, and Z before you can go any further. And sometimes I think it can be a little bit of a downfall, knowing that education, because it interferes. You start to think up here, oh, should it be happening like this?
Trouble is, that's just somebody else's. The way I look at it is that's just somebody else's teachings. Yeah. That's all you're learning. Yeah. I could then go, right, this is Leeann's modality, and I want to teach you all this. Yeah. Well, I've always believed, like this personal belief, is that you hold light for others to find their light and shine. And I never, ever want anyone to walk in my shoes. I want to see people shine in their own right, because we've all got something different. And I do worry that when we have all these different things around and that people are being trained in a set way, all we're doing is following somebody else's.
I agree. Course. And I think that way as well, we lose lots of gifts. Yeah. Because we're being funneled into certain areas, rather than just allowing the spirit world. I mean, there's many times at the spirit world, especially with people that I teach, you can see they'll try one thing with them, and then they might not do that for a while, and they'll try something else. And I know they'll say, well, why is that happening? Why aren't I doing psychic art anymore? And it's like, well, they're testing you. They're seeing where your gifts really do lie, and so I think it's good to keep open, and I think you can flourish, and your gifts will become more and more through doing it that way. Certainly, yeah.
Like you were saying, you just flow into different things, like you were saying about foods and stuff like that. Yeah. It's almost like this: they give you a board and they go, "Oh, there's this little bit," so you try that, and then all of a sudden you're like, something else will pop up and you'll be like, oh my God, that's exciting. So you might sometimes come away from something and go on to but then you might come full circle round on it again. And then all of a sudden, because of everything else that you've been through, it then flourishes in a whole different way. Yeah.
So we've got a few questions stacking up now.
Okay. You all this time.
Julianne. Hi, Julianne. I know it was more of a comment about how trance, it seems an amazing thing to do. So Julianne, sitting at home, can you describe the process of what it's like as again, I don't like using the word medium because I'll get a limitation, but as a channel, what it's like to bring again, discarnate entity into the physical, into your body, into your energy. What does it feel like for you? What's the process for you?
I decided how it works for me is that I need to get into that state where the spirit world can use me. So that's my 50%, if you like. I meet them halfway. Yeah. And so long as I'm in that altered state, then whoever comes. And it can be different each time, but getting to that altered state is the part. But with me, it does happen very quickly now. So as soon as I know that I'm going to be going into the altered state, my breath starts to alter. I don't know if Leeann's does as well, but the spirit come on the breath. So the heart rate starts to quicken. The breath starts to slow, funnily enough.
Sometimes, like you're not breathing, isn't
it? That's right. It is. Yeah. So the breath becomes quite slow. It becomes lengthy, and but the heart rate starts to quicken. You can become very hot. But once you've got used to that happening, you just go with it. And I know then that I get to a point. In fact, as I'm doing it now, I wanted to close my eyes and go off. I get to that point where I feel that I'm heightened, but it's almost like falling asleep, but not.
Yeah.
So if you imagine you're going down a pathway and sleep goes there and trance goes there, and that's it. So you're going on that pathway where your body's feeling like it's going to go to sleep, but then all of a sudden it's not. It's almost like a plane taking off, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's what happens with me, you know. But I know once I get to that point, when I'm doing healing, if it's trance for other things, like trance clairvoyance and that sort of thing, that is different. But for the healing, I know it's Dr. B that's going to be there. I know that he's going to be the one that comes along and he will start taking over. And he normally starts with the same sentence to open, which is good day. You know, he'll always say good day. That's his first words, good day. And then I think, right, he's got me. And then I drift off even further. And it's almost like I can hear something in another room. I'm aware sometimes of talking in another room and it's muffled. And sometimes I think, oh, he's not finished yet. And then I drift back off because you can't, it's like a flat line. You can't stay in the trance state like this. It's up and down. It moves like this. So sometimes I come back to the surface and I think, oh, he's not finished yet. And then I breathe and I go back off again. That's how it works for me. But it's unusual for me to remember things that are said during that time.
So, you know, sorry to interrupt. I'm quite excited. I've not interviewed anybody who's done trance clairvoyance. So I'd like to know on a personal level, can you tell me more about the clairvoyance? How did you get into that in the first place? What happened?
It just evolved. I mean, to be honest with you, what happened was sometimes I have a guide that will come through me and give clairvoyance. That's different. The trance clairvoyance is the loved ones of someone who will come through and speak direct. And it's more or less the same process, but I can't get over familiar with what's happening because you then become involved. And then you lose the link because you are listening or you're involved. Yeah. So I have to get to that point. But sometimes it's very odd because sometimes a loved one also can feel a little bit, not distressed, but, oh, I'm here. And then sometimes that'll be what they say. I had a lady who came through a couple of weeks ago and she said, where's my stick? Whatever happened to that stick? And then she said, do you remember I used to have a stick? And then she started talking to the person. So the first thing she remembered was that she used to walk around with a stick. And where was a stick, you know? So to actually come through and be able to talk and about remember what her life was. And do you remember when we did this and remember when we did that, you know? But it is about letting go and it's about letting it come forward. That's all you can do.
So, I'm kind of going to go on a bit of a personal journey. Sorry, guys, for sitting at home. So I've noticed recently when sitting in a one-to-one environment, reading for someone, I've started to get that, what Carol was describing, a twitching of the face. I'm very aware that I'm blending. There's always a process of blending whatever level of mediumship that you do.
That's right.
And I keep being told to do more physical. But I'm not sure whether I'm going into a trance clairvoyance or whether I should just go with that. But then I've not really prepared the sitter for that.
That's right. That's right. So perhaps it might be an idea to just get a small circle, just to practice, if you like. Yeah. You know, just develop that and see where it goes. At least then you may have got somebody. I mean, if you want, I'm quite open to coming across and sitting with you. Awesome. And you know, and just giving it a go. It may only happen once or twice. Or it may be, like we've said, they may try it out and then decide, no, actually, he can get more across doing ordinary clairvoyance. Because why put you in a trance state and put the medium under the pressure? Because it does have an effect on the physical body.
Yes.
Like we were saying, you know, the fact that you don't eat meat beforehand or you become sensitive to certain things, it does have an effect on the physical body. So why put the medium through that if you can get everything out that you need to say in an ordinary state, or, you know, in a lighter form of control, shall we say, a lighter form of blending. But on the other hand, there may be something that then could take you off on a completely different journey, something that's much deeper, because I'm still a great believer that the clairvoyance is the shop window. If we get good clairvoyance that get people attracted in and think, then behind the scenes, you've got the trance, you've got the healing, you've got the physical things that are going on. It's, you know, the clairvoyance is the shop window.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be the be all and end all. We've got depths to what's we're actually doing here. So it may be that you go off down on that, you know, down on that journey. Yeah. But they may just be testing you at the moment and seeing what's going. But yeah, I'm open to come in and having a look and see where.
You should, because I've tried to get in there. You literally see his guide come in and then he boots him back out again. It's trust.
Because last time I had a situation where I came out of my body and I felt myself completely go.
And it's scary because in a sense it's, I don't want to say it's a mini death, but you are giving up. You're giving up. And I think that's why sometimes, we have these twitches and we have these where the hands will do this, because you're still at that very last moment, you're still trying to hang on to what is essentially you, you know.
Don't try this at home, kids. That's what I'm...
No, but also it's for some people, like if you're not completely ready to surrender, you think to yourself, well, if I completely hand over, what happens if I don't come back?
Well, I felt like I was going home. I felt the love of home.
But that's what it is.
It is. And even if you don't come back, we know that life exists. This here is just something for experience. So what a way to go in the trance state. I mean, difficult to explain.
I'll leave a note for my son. Sorry, buddy. Dinner's in the fridge, you know.
I surrendered at long last.
But it is like that, and it can be scary, and that's why it takes so long to but if you can go with it and see what happens, you know, then the rewards are there, you know. It's the same as if when Dr. B will come and do psychic surgery. If I was hanging on, because he gets up and he walks around, so he walks me, he talks, he will do surgery on a person. If that wasn't him and that was me, I wouldn't know what I was doing. So I have to give over that control to him so that he can do the best for the patient. Because it's not about me. It's about the patient. It's about let's get them well. Let's get them living a life. Because I'm also a great believer in you have a beginning and you have an end date, you know. And if you become ill halfway through, your quality of life is not going to be good. So it's about that healing taking place to get you through to your end date in a good state so that you've had a good quality of life and you're able to do all of the things that you should be doing. So it's about getting that patient well again. And so that's how I look at it. I need to be out of the way because I wouldn't know what I was doing, you know, and he's there to be able to do what he needs to do.
Another great question from Carol Phillips. Will sitting in circle with others who are already mediumistic bring your gift out quicker?
Definitely, yeah. I tell you what, it's a little bit like when you have a football match and it's for the FA Cup and you get these teams that are non-league and they get drawn against Arsenal or they get drawn against Manchester United. They play up. And, you know, Manchester United or Arsenal find it difficult to play down to a level that they've not played at for a long time. And so sometimes they can lose. And that's why you get these teams that are like the underdog that come through because they can raise their game. And so what happens is that energy around you, it's a magnetic energy as well. It will lift that gift up. So definitely, if you're sitting with other mediums, if you're sitting for other mediums, then you may lose your gift for a while. Because a stronger medium will always draw that gift away from you. So if you're sitting with them, so if you're sitting in a group where there's a lot of you, then yes, that it can only heighten you. But when it comes to the point where if you start then to develop, but then you sit for another medium, that medium might pinch the energy. So you have to then decide what you want to do. If you want to decide to go on and work for, you know, you concentrate on your own mediumship, or whether or not you want to sit for somebody who's more experienced.
So it's shining in your own light again, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, just to highlight, Gordon Higginson, you know, it has to go down as one of the greatest mediums that we've had, you know. And he had a very well-known medium who used to sit for him. And the spirit world said, you will lose your gift to him. And she said, that's all right, because he will reach far more many people than what I could. And she was quite prepared for her gift to be used to help his to flourish. And that was when he used to be called the boy medium. So, you know, that's when he first started sitting in circle. And she was quite prepared to lose her gift because she knew that he would reach more people than what she ever could.
That's amazing.
So, you know, it will.
Sacrificing.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
A stronger medium.
But then that also, like, to me, that doesn't feel right, because you've only got to where you have because you've got somebody else's light.
Yeah. Do you know what, though? She gave that up. She was
Yeah,
told,
I know she gave it up, but a lot of people
that up. Yeah. Yeah.
But a lot of people do that without realizing as well. She realized, but there's a lot of people.
Right. Yeah.
I see it all the time where they're quite happy to aspire to the other person. They don't realize that they're actually giving theirs away to make them bigger. And that I find that like a little bit.
But don't you see that in all walks of life with all relationships?
You do. You do. There's always going to be givers and takers, and it's very difficult, you know, to find good sitters because everybody wants to be the medium. Yeah. You know, but to be honest with you, a sitter is the best place to be because a sitter gets to witness everything then that comes through. Yeah. So, you know, there's swings and roundabouts for it. You know, if you were to give let's say you decided that you would give your gift to somebody who's developing physical mediumship, and you know you're going to lose, say you're a very good clairvoyant, but you think I'm going to lose that clairvoyance because the spirit world will use my gift to enhance what they've got. But you get to see materializations that come through that medium and may even have your family members come back and speak to you. You know, which way is it? You know, there's swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't sit right for me at all.
Yeah. It's a personal choice, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. I just think we're all put here for a reason, and to go and give it to somebody else when you don't know what will unfold for yourself just seems a little bit.
I mean, maybe as she was a medium, maybe she did know. I can't ask.
So I'm saying if she knew, that's one.
I
was just getting to the aspect. I think there's a lot of that around in today's society, and people don't realize that they're giving their power over to other people. That's not just in the spiritual world. I think that's just
that's
in the world as a whole.
It is. Yeah, it is.
So we've got a question here from Lou. Hi, Lou. When do you trance? Do you do it in the dark, or when do you trance? In the dark, in a red light, or a cupboard?
I don't do a cupboard, but I do a cabinet.
No, I don't know why I said cupboard. I said cupboard. Sorry.
It is. Yeah, no, I don't do a cupboard. But I mean, some people do have cupboards, don't they? You know, they use. I do use a cabinet. I do use red light. I do it in the dark, and I also do it in the light as well, because it depends what you're developing. So trance, you don't have to do it in the dark. Yeah. Trance is blending with the spirit world, and trance could be if you're giving a sitting to somebody that's a trance clairvoyance, your sitter, who may not have any experience with the trance state, is going to feel a bit weird walking into a dark room with somebody, and you know, then all of a sudden their loved ones start speaking to them, you know. So trance can be developed in the light. What we're talking about with where the dark is concerned, or the red light, is when physical mediumship starts to manifest. And when ectoplasm is, or even energy now, I know things are changing. As we were saying, things have changed recently, very quickly. So I know that the spirit world are using energy as well as ectoplasm still, but not as much ectoplasm because it has more of an effect on the physical body of the medium. Yeah. It's light sensitive. So that's why they ask you to start to develop it, first of all, in the dark. Then they will ask you to introduce the red light, and then they'll ask you to turn the light up so that then people can see what's going on. But because it's light sensitive, that's why it has to be developed in the dark. But trance itself, if it's trance healing, trance clairvoyance, trance in general, that can all be done in the light. What we're talking about is if it's physical, then take it into the dark, because that is light sensitive, and that would have a difference. Yeah.
So does that have quite an impact on your body as well, as in like your?
I mean, going back, ectoplasm, it's made up from energy from the spirit world, but also waste product from the body.
Isn't it generated at the back of the sinuses?
Not always. Right? No,
okay.
it can be from the stomach, from the bowel.
Okay.
I know. It can come from the solar plexus. It can come from the nose, from the mouth, even from the eyes. Any orifice within the body, ectoplasm can come from.
So can it make you poorly?
Well, it doesn't make you poorly. It will tire you, depending on how much you produce.
Yeah.
But what happens is once it's out of the body, it becomes solid. So it comes out almost fluid at first, and then as it forms into the, if we're talking about full manifestation, if it comes as a person, it will form as solid. So they can touch you, they can shake your hand, they could give you a kiss. You could see the color of their eyes of what they were when they were alive.
Wow.
So when you're talking about that, then what happens is it has to become fluid again for it to go back into the body. Now, have you ever read the book about Helen Duncan?
I know the history. I've not read her book.
Okay, so she was a physical medium, and what happened was she was told not to do this particular seance. So let's talk about somebody else first. Alec Harris. He was also a physical medium. He was told not to do this seance, and he went along and did it anyway. And then somebody tried, a policeman actually said he was a fraud, tried to capture the materialized form. Of course, it was solid, but it's made up of the medium's fluid. So what happened was that fluid then wanted to try and go back into the body, causes a shock. It can kill the medium. It has to be dosed on, it's really sensitive subject. Also, if the room isn't clean, it can pick up things on the way. There was one particular medium that was killed by a hat pin because the hat pin came back up and went inside her along with the ectoplasm. So, it becomes physical, it becomes solid when it's out, but then going back in. So that's why it's dangerous to the medium. It has to be done in controlled circumstances, extremely clean room, because otherwise it's picking things back up as it comes back in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a nice thought. Also, we haven't talked about, you've done not just spiritual healing, you've also done Reiki healing. We've not even gone down that route.
Yeah, I have Reiki healing, yeah.
And there's a question itself. I've done Reiki a few years ago, I did spiritual healing. I spent about 3 years learning the process of spiritual healing and just kind of getting into that. But I wanted to know the difference between Reiki healing and spiritual healing. For you, what is there? Is there a difference, Deborah? Or?
To be honest with you, I think it all comes from the same source. All healing comes from the divine. Yeah. Healing is divine. It is that divine light, and out of everything, healing has to be the greatest gift. It works on the physical, it works on the mental, and to put somebody well is the most fantastic feeling, but it all comes from that one source. Personally, I couldn't gel properly with Reiki. I did Reiki. I went through the course and, studied for a long time. I know you can get your Reiki certificate in a weekend. Yeah. I did mine with Swami, and it went on for about 2.5 years. And there's lots to do with symbols and unlocking energy and this sort of thing. But at the end of the day, it still came from that same source. And I like spiritual healing. I like the fact that I have guides that I work with. I understand what they're doing, and that healing comes through and passes down the line, if you like, and through me then to the patient. That's just my personal preference. So I understand. And some people don't know about spiritual healing. Some people will accept Reiki over spiritual healing, and I don't think it makes any difference. It's all from the same place.
Sorry, Sean, did I put this up for you? Would you say doing Reiki self-healing is a way of sitting in the power?
No, I don't. Because I think it has to be in the intent. And I think if you're doing healing, it's different to actually sitting in the power and having that relationship with God or that universal energy. And it's I'll go back to the mobile phone analogy, and this is just my personal feelings about it, is that Reiki healing would be one of the apps. It's not the thing that charges the whole. So I think it's not the same. It's, don't get me wrong, healing and sitting in the power can be very close. But I just think if you're doing healing on yourself, that is healing. Sitting in the power is something else. And I think, again, going back to the tree, you know, Reiki healing is one of the branches, spiritual healing, psychic art, trance, clairvoyance, you know, all the different things, using the planchette, the Ouija board, the table, they're all different branches. But actually what makes the whole tree is the spirituality. Yeah. And that continues. So I do think sitting in the power is different, and it takes in the whole rather than just one point. But there's nothing wrong with doing Reiki on yourself and working on yourself. That's great. I love that. But I would actually say it's different. It's slightly different.
I love the way you described that. It was beautifully put. Thank you. Now, Julianne Barber. Hello, Julianne. How do you go about finding a place to sit with others? I want to get into this, but I have no clue where to start. That's a good question.
It is a good question, especially now with COVID and rules and this sort of thing.
Yeah.
I would start, first of all, personally, by getting a good center, you know, whether that is going into a church or, you know, a group. But you can actually sit at home as well.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're doing, you could do like Leeann said, you know, and like I said, the pioneers didn't know what they're doing. They just used to sit in a darkened room, or they'd sit with their hands on a table and they'd wait and see what happened. But if you're looking for something where you are getting teachings and things like this, there are people like myself that do them online. I'm actually going to be getting back, probably starting this summer, back teaching face-to-face again. There's nothing better than teaching face-to-face. You know, online it's served a purpose, but it's teaching face-to-face and getting somebody that you can trust, and you know what they're saying feels right. It sits right, and you know that you feel safe in that they've got you. You know, I've stopped teaching trance and actually clairvoyance online, because I like to be able to be in the room, to be able to feel where they are, to feel where their vibration is. And I think if you can get somebody who you feel happy with, who can do that, and there are mediums out there, so it's about looking and finding, you know, depending on what you want to do, Leeann, whether it's going to be trance or whether it's clairvoyance or whether you just want to sit in the power, is looking up, you know, where you can get these people who will do them, and people will advertise. People will advertise the courses and things like this, and their groups. But getting a good group that sits regularly, and that's somebody that you feel comfortable with.
And that's important, isn't it? Trying to find a group that you feel comfortable with. You know, it's always going to a new group can feel a bit different, but just give it a few times. Just is it for you? Is it not for you? That's really important. Does the person you're learning from, do they resonate with you? That all these kind of things help. They really do.
The other thing you can do as well, sorry, Paul, the other thing you can do as well is just to put that thought out there, and just, you know, just have a few minutes and just to that creative power, to God, to that sitting in the power, and just say, I'd like to develop this. Can you help? You know, because for every question, there's an answer. For every problem, there's a solution. And it is that spiritual power that will give you those answers. And so maybe if you put that, you know, put that out there, put it into the universe, that all of a sudden you may, you know, be walking down the street and meet somebody that you've not seen for a long time, and they say, actually, I go to this group. Why don't you come along? Or, you know, somebody went to see somebody that I know went to see a clairvoyant, and just little things that start to come together that then point you in the right direction. That might be a good one to do as well. Give that one a go. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, we've got another question here from Effie, if I can find it.
I've highlighted two.
Yeah, there's a couple. Yeah, thank you. There's one here from Effie saying, how long does it take your body to come back to normal after a trance session?
It varies. It depends, first of all, how deep you go. So if you've gone quite deep, it might take you a few more minutes to come back to being, awake. But you might actually have the essence of the spirit world with you for a few days. And what I mean by that is, if you imagine you've got, let's say you've got some lavender oil, and you've got a bowl of water, and you put a few drops of lavender oil in the water. When you tip it out, the lavender oil's gone, but it leaves a coating, it leaves an essence of the lavender oil on the bowl. And this is what happens with the spirit world. So sometimes they're actually that you feel that they're still with you. They're not. They leave their essence. And I have one particular guide that when she is so refined. She used to wear the best clothes and shoes. And when she's gone from me, I feel very refined. And then when I feel myself really coming back to being me again, I actually feel really awful at the side of her, because the way she comes through, she's so refined, but her essence stays with me for a couple of days before I actually feel my old clumsy self, being there. But yeah, her essence does stay with me a few days when she's been, but it's her essence. She's not there with me all the time. Once I'm back, but her essence may stay with me, if that makes sense. I hope
that is a beautiful thing as well, isn't it? To have that essence
definitely.
with you.
Yeah,
absolutely. The other thing, Effie's made a good point back on one of your comments here. I wish there were more local trance circles, and they're not easy to find. Now, absolutely. But my point is, okay, you've got a group of people that are willing to sit for trance or physical, and there is not a medium to guide them. Would you advise them to sit on their own without any?
I would advise them to sit at home on their own, per se, rather than perhaps in a group with everybody else, because you're going to find that you are going to get people who, without that medium to guide them initially, might start doing things that aren't quite right, if that makes sense. And there'll be some strange things that do happen anyway in the trance states. When you've got a trance medium who knows these things and then can guide that person who's going through them out of it. But if you're all inexperienced, then what may happen is that person may then be ostracized, or maybe having a weird experience and not know where to go. So I would say sit with a trance medium in a group, if you can find one. I think these will start to take off again now that we're coming out of restrictions. I know that Boris announced today, didn't he, that they're hoping there's going to be no restrictions from the end of February rather than it being the end of March now. So you're going to find these things are going to start happening again. Yeah. Or sit at home on your own. Put some light music on and just sit with the spirit world and see what happens.
And I guess for me, it's always about setting your intention. When you're sitting at home, set that intention that you want to have that connection with spirit. I think that's really important. There's another question here from Carol. Have you ever been in another trance with another trance worker, and you have both had your trance workers come through at the same time and have a conversation? Bit novel. Okay, I guess a bit unusual.
What happened was in a group in Scotland, and I hadn't been working with Dr. Benjamin very long, but the other lady that was there, we were both asked to go into, it was an experiment, we were both asked to go into the trance state at the same time. She had a doctor that used her, I had Dr. Benjamin, and we both got up and started to work on the patient, but the doctors that was speaking through us were having conversations about what was happening with the patient and about who was taking what, if you know what I mean. So this patient had more than one problem that needed dealing with, and it was a case of, right, you do this and I'm going to do that, and worked just as what the two doctors, if they were here in the physical, would have done. So that it did actually happen.
Okay. Cool. We've got another question that's kind of gone off a little bit off topic, but not that matters, because we try to cover all topics on Spiritual Talk. But this is more about, and I can't see who this is from because, sorry, can you put it up for me? Yeah, that's it.
Is it this one?
Yeah, I can't see it. Sorry, it's gone into the group.
I haven't gotten that. Yeah. I don't know.
So often I feel I astral travel and come back into myself, but have no memory of where I have gone. Why is that? And where do I? When do I come back? Sorry, and when I do come back, it feels jolting. Have you had any experiences of astral travel?
Yeah. Often when I was first came into spiritualism, first became into being a medium, I used to astral travel quite a lot. And I think, first of all, I'll cover the point of jolting. As the spirit is coming back into the body, and I don't know if you've not been astral traveling very long, but it is almost like a practice, and it's almost like sometimes you fall back into the body and then you jolt awake. Whereas with practice, and you can practice astral travel, there are some good books out there on astral travel, and also there are some Indian gurus that will speak at length on astral travel. You can actually get information on them on Instagram now. You know, there's all sorts of places you can look into this.
Yeah.
But as the more you become experienced, the easier, the smoother the coming back together, the spirit and the body coming back together will become. Yeah. As for remembering, again, it's just practice. And it's knowing. So sometimes you may be aware of yourself coming out, and then you may be aware of yourself jolting back in. You may be aware of yourself coming out, but then having no recollection of where you're going, but then coming back in again. Or it may be that you don't have any recollection of coming out and you're only recollecting coming back in. But again, it's practice. And there are good books out there on astral travel that you can actually look into. Yeah, and then it is practice. And again, setting your intention when you go to sleep at nighttime is saying, I want to remember where I'm going. I want to have an experience. I'm waiting and seeing what happens, and not giving up after a week because it's not happened. You know, it's just to say, yeah, I still want to do this, and wait and see what actually happens.
Yeah. Awesome. I think because astral travel is a thing. It really is. And I very often go off and don't remember where I've gone. I go really quickly. But I never remember where I've gone. Some people said to me, I always wake up tired. I'm not sure whether they've been astrally traveling or not, but I don't know.
I think the body still rests when you're astral traveling, because it's the body's actually still. It's the spirit that's alive. The spirit doesn't need to rest. It's the spirit that's coming out and having a look around. But we used to do all sorts of experiments. There's a group of us that used to do it from the church where I started going. And what would happen is, on the top of the door, you'd put a counter, like a little tiddlywink. And then you'd set the intention. I know I need to go to whoever's house. And you'd find what they'd left for you, or they'd write numbers down. And then when you came back into your body, you'd get the numbers. So it is practice. And you can do these little experiments with people that, you know, then so you're setting the intention. Yeah, I want to go to Fred's house tonight. He's leaving something in the bedroom or the living room for me to look at. And then it's remembering when you get back. So,
I was teaching this to my stepson. I was saying, right, because I was saying I've always done that. I was caught by my grandson going in to the house early hours of the morning to do healing on my daughter, and I was standing by the bed, and then the next time he came over, he said, before he said goodbye, he goes, Nanny, he goes, do you often come in the house at night? And I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's interesting with you saying that about healing as well, because that is one of the things where healers do, where sometimes I'm taken out and I'm giving healing to a patient with astral travel, you know. So I always give permission to Dr. B to use me for healing at nighttime, you know, and then you do become aware of certain, you know, certain instances where you remember what you've been doing with that person.
I can remember when we were taught. Sorry, Paul. When we were
taught. There's a question in a question there. Sorry, Leeann.
Sorry, we were taught to go into people's houses and move something and see if they were aware. Like photos, put them down and things like that.
Yeah.
But my question would be, if I'm sitting at home listening to this conversation, why do we need to travel when so if we're coming out of the body and actually traveling to heal, why can't kind of spirit do that? You've set that in, do you know what I mean, from a distance perspective. Does that make sense?
It is the spirit world that are doing the healing. It
But-
is the spirit world. But what's happening is it's a little bit like when you're in the trance state. Sometimes I am aware that I'm looking over my own shoulder.
Yeah.
Because
okay.
DB is using my body, in a sense, to do the healing. I'm looking over my shoulder at certain things he wants me to see.
I am playing devil's advocate, by the way, for you. Right, tell me off right now. But so if I'm sitting at home and I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, but how does the body come out to go to, say, someone in Birmingham to help with spirit to heal that person? There's a part of your essence. Also, for me personally, is that similar to remote viewing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah. But the fact is that you're actually out of the body. So it's not just a case of remote viewing where you're looking. You are out. Yeah, you're out.
See, I can do remote viewing really easily because I kind of read people's auras and I tune into people that way. So wherever they are, I can tune into them. And so there's an essence of that as well. So I guess a piece of me is going to that person. Which then kind of brings it round. It's really important to be centered, isn't it? And have a kind of a centering meditation daily practice.
Sitting in the power.
Yeah, there we go.
Sitting in the power. That is what gives you the energy to be able to do these things then. Because you're fully charged. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Mr. Interview's gone round full circle.
It has. It has.
Absolutely. Effie's asked just quickly, what is that symbol behind you, Deborah?
It's Buddha.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah, it's Buddha.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, is there any more questions? Because I've got one last question I'd like to ask. Do you want to do it? You're going to do it, Leeann.
I want to do that one, but I also want to ask you, because all these different things. So I've had an experience twice where I've levitated.
Hang on, you kept that quiet.
I did tell you. It's only when my other half, he wasn't even aware. I turned over at night and I was aware that my body, I astro travel, so I knew the difference, but I was very aware my body had lifted off of the bed. And he rolled over, looked at me and went, "What the hell are you doing?" And bang, I came back down. Then I had it happen again. My whole body started to shake. And I thought I was going to do it. And I started to lift and I got so overexcited, I brought myself back down again.
Okay. But is that like a form of astral travel though? Because are you in bed when this happens?
No, my body. See, astro travel, I go off and you're
very aware. The whole body. Wow.
Body.
Yeah. Wow. I am assuming, without actually being there and seeing, I don't know, but I'm assuming that you have a loose spirit body, is in that it can come in and out quite quickly. So the shaking part, the shaking part, I think, is where it is the spirit and the body starting to vibrate. But you look at these yogis and gurus and they can levitate. And again, it's all to do with the power. So if you've always had this this power and that you've worked on, that you've done naturally without the educational part of the system, I think it's just something that's a natural progression, So you weren't frightened at all?
I was excited.
Frightened.
The second time I realized, I was just like, what happened is I was doing some healing on my other half. And as I'd done it, as I put my hands over him, I saw all his lifetimes in front of me. I felt pain, I felt excitement, and it was just so overwhelming. And as I pulled my hand, I then pulled away thinking that I was intruding. So I then pulled away and just laid there. And as I laid there, my body just emanated this beautiful, bright white light. And it was immensely beautiful. And with that, my body started to like vibrate. And I could feel it from my toes all the way up to my head. And it felt so beautiful. And then with it, I felt myself start to lift. I physically felt myself come off of the bed. And And then I got so excited about it. Go, oh my God, where am I going next? And I came back down again, and I've not been able to get back to that.
To that point, yeah. You know, sometimes they do give you little carrots where it's a case of look at what you can do, but you're going to have to work for it now, you know. So I'd be interested to see where it goes. Yeah.
So I didn't know what you made of it, because I've like I said to you before, you can have your good bits about not being trained, because it's all, to me, it's all about, for me, my power is just pure unconditional love. But because the flip side of it, you have things like that happen, and you're like, do I belong in a white coat with my hands tied, or is this real?
I do know somebody else that had very similar experience. Yeah. And it is down to having what I would class as a very loose spirit body that comes in and out of the body coming in and out of the body quite easily. And that's what causes the phenomena, if you like.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
You made my day now. Now you know somebody else has had it. I know that I'm okay.
Yeah, I do know somebody else has had it. Yeah. So I do know, and that's what it was actually Gordon Higginson that told him what was happening to him. So I do know through listening to that I know that can happen. So
oh wow,
yeah.
Well, thank you,
Deborah. We've not even talked about your Phoenix Foundation either.
Yeah. A group of us that got together, a group of mediums that got together, that we go out teaching, is the Phoenix Foundation. So, you know, it's been quiet for quite a while now, but there's no reason why it won't resurrect now that we can start getting back out and seeing people face to face again.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. One last question. Can I ask you one last question?
Yeah.
What's next for Deborah? What's next for you?
Well, I'm just getting my yoga teacher training under my belt, only because I want to bring the breath more to patients, more to people in the meditation groups and things that I do as well. And also the breath, as I say, when you go into the altered state, the breath is very important. The spirit will come on the breath. And the only way that I can get a certificate in the breath is by doing the yoga teacher training. So it's the breath part of yoga. So yoga really as a whole is looking at the mind, body and spirit. And it's the breath part that I'm wanting to harness, to use in things. But, you know, I'm open to wherever the spirit world wants to take me. I decided after I had my stroke that once I got the gift back again and I started working again, that what I wanted to do was to serve. And so I tend not to turn anything down, although I was really nervous about doing this tonight. And I nearly cancelled about 1,000 times today.
Really?
I did. Yeah, I did. That I thought I can't, because if the spirit world put something in my hand and say, this is what we want you to do, or I get offered something, I said I would serve. And so that's what I do. So whatever they have in store for me, I will do, because that was the promise that I made to them, that I will serve whatever.
Well, can I say on behalf of everyone at Spiritual Talk and everybody that watches us, whether you're on catch up or live, we want to thank you ever so much for going through with it. You've really given us some awesome information and inspired lots of people at home, I'm sure.
Hope so. Yeah, hope so.
And we can't thank you enough. It's been, honestly, we've been going for well over an hour and a half.
Wow. So I told you once I started talking, you wouldn't get me to shut up.
Didn't we tell him, be in the flow?
Yeah, in the flow. Yeah, that's right.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. So, well, thank you ever so much for coming on, agreeing to come on and not running away from us. That's been brilliant.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for asking so
much. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure. And we'll be back this time next week, same as always, 8 p.m. And next week's guest, we have a special gentleman who's a physical medium. There's pictures online of him actually manifesting spirit with ectoplasm. So Kai Myig from Germany. So that's going to be another fascinating interview. I can't wait for that. I'm not sure he's not going to do it live, but he can share some of his experiences and hopefully bring some pictures on that we can see as well. So from myself and Leeann and Deborah, it's bye for now, guys. We'll see you all next week. Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.